Hello everyone, I'm the Mass Analyst. This is a response to the YourTubeAdvocate's video entitled, Why Videos Were Removed. This is to the advocate who goes by the name of 20. I realize that this video will be appearing very late in your term. Too late for you to post a response as an advocate, and for that I apologize. But it's taken me a fair amount of time to put this video together, and I think there are things that I have to say even if you don't have a chance to respond. Perhaps Just Allen will allow you to post a video response to the YouTube Advocates channel even though your term is expired. Now, in your video, you explained that you had to remove your videos out of fear that YouTube would suspend the YouTube Advocate channel as a result of a false flagging campaign. It's perfectly obvious that you had nothing in your videos that could be legitimately construed as a violation of the community guidelines or the terms of service. That the YouTube Advocate would fear being suspended as a result of false flagging is a damning commentary about the way YouTube is being run. Take a look at the YouTube's community guidelines. Look under the section labeled, We enforce these guidelines. Here's what YouTube has to say about flagging. They say, YouTube staff review flagged videos 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to determine whether they violate our community guidelines. When they do, we remove them. Sometimes a video doesn't violate our community guidelines, but may not be appropriate for everyone. Now, since you have not done anything to violate the community guidelines, this means one of three things. First scenario, you're being paranoid about the possibility of your account being suspended. You are in no real danger of losing your account because the staff at YouTube realize how important it is not to suspend accounts unnecessarily. They really do a conscientious job of reviewing flagged videos to make sure that they do not wrongfully remove videos and suspend accounts. Under this scenario, your paranoid fears are not based on reality. Scenario 2. The staff at YouTube do review flagged videos, but the reviews are so quick and superficial that they do not provide adequate protection against wrongful suspension. If this is the case, one wonders why they even bother doing a review at all. Do they do superficial reviews just for the sake of being able to say that they don't automatically suspend flagged channels? Is this merely a PR gimmick so that people will feel that the staff at YouTube are at least trying to be fair in the review process? Okay, third scenario. The staff at YouTube don't really review flagged videos before deleting them and suspending accounts. In other words, they are lying in the community guidelines when they claim that they actually review flagged videos before deleting them. Now, personally, I don't believe this third scenario. I don't believe that they're flat out lying. But neither of the other two possibilities reflect well on YouTube. Let's look at the first scenario. Let's assume that YouTube does a conscientious job of reviewing flagged videos so that accounts are not wrongfully suspended. If that is the case, then why are you so paranoid? And why are so many other people paranoid? Is it because they have seen YouTube removing videos and suspending accounts for reasons that are mysterious at best? Let's suppose that you're mistaken in your perception that YouTube wrongfully removes videos and suspends accounts that have been falsely flagged. If you are mistaken in your belief, at least you have some consolation in knowing that you are not alone. Many others believe the same thing too. At the very least, this suggests that YouTube is doing a terrible job of communicating with its users. And there is no doubt that YouTube is terrible about communicating with us. I am older than most of the people who post here. I'm 52 years old. That means I've communicated with a number of companies in my lifetime, and I've never seen any company with worse communications with its users than YouTube. Let me explain. Starting in 2006, another individual and I had, shall I say, a very adversarial relationship. He posted comments on people's channels threatening to rape them. He followed false DMCAs. He used sock puppets and broke nearly every rule in the book. I exposed his shenanigans, and he didn't like it. So he filed a DMCA against a couple of my videos that made legitimate fair use of his videos in order to expose his wrongdoing. And he posted a video in which he made a veiled death threat against me. About 5 months after he posted his veiled death threat, he filed a totally bogus DMCA against me for a video that he had no copyright interest in whatsoever. Now YouTube knew that this guy was a bad boy because they had suspended him time after time after time, and yet they honored his totally bogus DMCA and suspended my account. So I wrote to YouTube to inform them that I did not want to file a counter notice because I would have to sign my name and address to the counter notice, and they in turn would turn this information over to the person who made death threats against me, a veiled death threat against me. I'm going to post a link in the sidebar to a copy of my correspondence with YouTube's Copyright Office. I encourage everyone to read it, but for those who don't want to take the time to read it, here's the Reader's Digest version of it. They basically ignored what I said and told me I had to file a counter notice to get my account back. This was despite the fact that I could prove that the final DMCA against my account was totally bogus. There was something very special about the last video that they removed that got me suspended. Other people had posted copies of this video on their channels, and I begged YouTube to watch the video. If they had done so, they would have seen that it was made by Firefly515, and about 3 minutes into the video, he was begging everyone to repost the video to their channels. It was obvious that I had permission of the copyright owner to post the video, and it was obvious that had they taken 3 minutes to investigate, they would have known that the DMCA was bogus. But no. YouTube in effect told me that if I wanted my channel back, I would have to file a counter notice and give my docs to someone who had made a threat against me. To their credit, though, I must state that they did give me back my account without my having to file a counter notice. It took them 4 months to do so. 4 months to do what should have taken them no more than a day or two. And when they did restore my account, did they send me an email apologizing for wrongfully suspending me? Of course not. In fact, they didn't even send me an email notifying me that my account has been restored. I found out that my account was restored when another YouTube user sent me a PM, or rather an email, and told me that he saw my videos were back up again. Now, my correspondence with YouTube occurred back in the good old days of late 2007 and early 2008. YouTube is even worse today. Back then, they actually provided you with an email address where you could send them messages. Now, if you want to send them a message, you can only do so if you can find a very difficult to find form, and the text box that they allow that they have on the form is only 350 characters long. Now, this isn't enough space to protest an improper video removal or suspension. In fact, if your account has been suspended, YouTube's policy is that you can't even open a new account. So if you do open a new account, just try to, in order to just send YouTube a PM, well, you're violating the terms of service, and they could make your account suspension permanent. This suggests one of two possibilities. Number one, either the staff at YouTube believes that they never make mistakes and that they never wrongfully suspend accounts, or number two, they realize that they make errors and that accounts get wrongfully suspended sometimes, and they just don't care. And even if you do get through to them, they're seldom helpful. I've heard of many YouTubers who have written to YouTube asking them why their videos were pulled, and YouTube just sends them a standard form letter telling them to look at the TOS and the community guidelines. This is most unhelpful because the terms of service and guidelines are ambiguous, and they could be used to suspend anyone for almost any reason. There are no clear lines of demarcation, and the guidelines seem to be enforced differently for different people. For example, take a look at the video called Poop in a Cup by YouTube partner Charles Trippy, and I'll post a link in the sidebar to this video. Okay, pretty strong stuff. Now, let me read you part of the community guidelines. YouTube is not a shock site. Don't post gross out videos of accidents, dead bodies, or similar things intended to shock or disgust. Does anyone really think that Charles Trippy's video complies with the guidelines? If an ordinary YouTuber were to make a video like this, do you think YouTube would remove it and put up a strike against his account? Why is that video still up? Is it possible that YouTube doesn't know about it? Is it possible that out of 174,000 people who have watched this video, hardly anyone flagged it for review? And if this video falls within the guidelines, then what do the guidelines really mean? Where are we to draw the line? How are we to know what is allowed on YouTube and what is forbidden without further guidance? We may want to avoid running afoul of YouTube's rules, but how can we do so if we don't know what the rules mean? And why are we not given any meaningful way to contest the removal of videos that we post if we post them with a good faith belief that they did not violate the rules? Let's look at another example of how the terms of service and community guidelines are ambiguous. Why did YouTube remove a video by dprjones exposing VenomFangX's fraud and suspend his dprjones' account for 2 weeks? I'll post a link in the sidebar to a copy of the video that got dprjones suspended. I invite you to watch the video yourself and form your own conclusions. Now, if YouTube wanted to make sure that their website wasn't being used to commit fraud, then they should have applauded dprjones instead of punishing him. I've heard someone claim that YouTube had a reason to suspend dprjones. This person claimed that 16 or 17 of dprjones' roughly 35 videos were about VenomFangX, and this constituted stalking. Oh, really? This seems like a gross distortion of the word stalking to me. Suppose I made 20 videos discussing why George Bush was the worst president in my lifetime. Would that make me a stalker? What if all 200 of my videos were devoted to an examination of the shortcomings of the Bush administration? Would that make me a stalker? Or might it just be a sign that I'm a good and thorough historian? The fact is, some YouTubers attract a lot of attention because they act outrageously on YouTube. If YouTube wants to define stalking by the number of videos that you post about someone else, then they should spell it out in their terms of service. We shouldn't have to guess about these things, and if they don't want us to expose the fraud and abuse of others, then they should spell that out as well. Perhaps they should change their name from YouTube to the Scam Protection Zone. So far, I've only discussed the most benevolent interpretation for YouTube's actions. My discussion thus far has focused on the scenario that the YouTube staff are genuinely trying to avoid suspending accounts that have been falsely flagged, and that your paranoia is due mainly to YouTube's lack of communications. Now let's look at the other possible scenario. Let's look at the possibility that they really don't care at all if someone's account is wrongfully suspended. Let's look at the possibility that they're only superficially reviewing flagged videos and that they're only touting their review process for the PR benefit it will bring. After all, they probably don't want us to think that they'll automatically suspend accounts if the videos that have been posted to those accounts have been hit with a large enough number of flags. If they're only superficially reviewing videos for the PR benefit of being able to say that they're reviewing videos, then this is even more damning indeed. If this is the way that YouTube is operating, then they don't seem to be living up to their promise of being the world's largest town hall for political speech. This is, after all, how they described their YourTubeAdvocate platform back in their March 31, 2008 blog entry. Though the election is over, YouTube is still the world's largest town hall for political speech. If you want any chance of having your videos seen by a wide enough audience, YouTube is the place to be. This is something that both the President and members of Congress realize. YouTube is unique in that it is the place on the Internet where the President and Congress have set up shop in order to communicate with the widest possible audience. I'll post links in the sidebar to the channels for the White House as well as the channels for the House and Senate. I'll also post a link to a video by the leaders of the House and Senate. I want you to watch this. This video is very important, so please make sure you watch it. Now pay close attention to the last 20 seconds of the video, where Senator Mitch McConnell says that it is even easier now than ever before to voice an opinion about what is going on in Washington now that they've set up shop on YouTube. And pay very close attention to Congressman John Boehner, who invited us all to share our videos and comments with them. Clearly, our congressional representatives want us to be able to communicate with them through YouTube. As far as I know, if you wanted to address your representatives in an open letter in video format, YouTube is the place you have to be. This places a special moral obligation on YouTube not to suspend accounts unnecessarily. If, and I stress if, YouTube is taking a cavalier approach to account suspensions, then this seems to fly in the face of the will of Congress. This would be pretty sad behavior for a company whose unofficial corporate motto is, "Don't be evil." This has been the Mass Analyst under an N.